Elia sat in the far corner of the shared classroom, her small hands folded on the table. Her skin was soft blue, with faint lines that glowed when she felt nervous. Today they glowed brightly. She didn't look up. She could feel the others. Staring, she heard the whispers. She always did. Why is she even here? One alien boy muttered, "She smells weird." Another added, "Dodea said nothing. She never did." Her voice was soft, and most of the others didn't understand her accent. Anyway, her translator chip was old, and sometimes skipped words. She didn't have money for a new one. Her people were gone. Her home planet, Talira, was destroyed in the last war. She was one of the few survivors sent to live on the peace station orbiting planet Veltra. Here, many species lived together. Most students were kind, but some weren't. And Elia, with her small frame and quiet ways, was an easy target. At lunch, Elia sat at a long table, far from the others. She had a small food tray, just plain protein squares and a warm drink. She picked up her fork. Someone bumped her tray. The food fell to the floor. "Oops," said a tall green-scaled boy. "Didn't see you there, Talira runt." Leah bent down to pick up the pieces. Her hands shook. The boy laughed, joined by two others. "Maybe she eats off the floor back on her dead planet." One sneered. Just then, a chair scraped loudly across. The floor. Someone stood up. Human boy with short brown hair and a dark jacket walked over. His name was Jake. He was new to the station, just transferred from Earth last week. He had mostly kept to himself, still learning about the other species here. "That's enough," he said. The bullies stopped laughing. They turned to Jake, confused. "What did you say, Earthling?" the tall boy asked. Jake didn't back down, said, "That's enough. Leave her alone." The room got quiet. Some students looked over. Some froze with food halfway to their mouths. The tall boy narrowed his eyes. "This isn't your business." Jake stepped between Elia and the bullies. "It is now." No one moved. The bullies weren't sure what to do. They had never been stopped before. After a long pause, the leader gave a short hiss and turned away. The others followed him. Jake turned to Elia and held out his hand. "You okay?" Up at him. She was surprised. She had never seen anyone do that for her. Slowly, she reached up and took his hand. "Thank you," she said softly. "No." Translator clicked, but the word came through clear. Jake smiled. "I'm Jake." Elia, she replied. Jake helped her gather what was left of her food and walked with her to a new seat. He shared part of his own lunch with her. They didn't talk much at first, just quiet chewing. But after a few minutes, Elia spoke. "Why?" "Help me," she asked. Jake shrugged. "Because you needed help? It's what we do on Earth." Elia tilted her head. "Earth is kind," Jake chuckled. "Not always, but we try." From that day, things changed. Jake and Elia started walking to class together. Jake noticed how students still looked at her strangely. But now, they didn't say much. Not when Jake was around. He helped her fix her translator chip using parts from old. Earth Tech Elia was amazed. She had never seen anyone fix something so fast. Jake had a good mind for machines. He enjoyed solving problems. They spent hours in the station's old tech room working on small projects. Elia showed him parts of the station he had never seen. Narrow tunnels, empty rooms with old star maps, and secret doors that only opened when you pressed them just right. They became friends. But the bullies hadn't forgotten. One day, as Jake was late to meet her after class, the group cornered Elia near the maintenance wing. "So your human isn't here now, huh?" One sneered. Lya backed away. "Please, I do nothing to you." They closed in. One of them reached out to grab her bag. "Hey!" a voice shouted. Jake ran down the hallway. He didn't hesitate. He pushed his way between them and Elia. "Leave her alone," he said again. "Or what?" The tall boy growled. Jake didn't answer. His fists were clenched, but he didn't strike. Instead, station guards arrived. Someone had called them. Maybe a hidden camera saw what happened. The bullies stepped back quickly and tried to lie. But the guards didn't listen. This time, the bullies were warned. One more mistake, and they would be sent off the station. Rules were strict. Here, violence was not accepted. After the guards left, Jake turned to Elia. "Are you okay?" She nodded, her small eyes full of emotion. "You protect me again." Jake smiled gently. "Always." Elia looked down. "I'm sorry. You get in trouble." "I don't care," he said. "You're my friend." Those words made something warm grow inside Elia. She hadn't had a friend since before her world ended. She thought maybe that part of her life was gone forever, but Jake brought it back. The next few weeks became peaceful for Elia. No one pushed her tray anymore. No one blocked her path or pulled her bag. And if anyone tried to whisper about her, they stopped the moment Jake looked their way. Dolly smiled more often now. She longer sat alone during meals. She sat next to Jake, asking him questions about Earth. He told her stories about forests, oceans, snow, and animals that made her eyes grow wide. "What's a dog?" she asked once. "A furry friend," Jake said, grinning. "They wag their tails when they're happy." "Would like a dog," Elia said softly. Jake laughed. "Me too." In return, Elia shared memories of Talira. She spoke of floating gardens, sky bridges, made from crystal roots, and songs that glowed with light. Her voice was calm, but full of color when she spoke of her home. Sometimes she grew quiet at the end of her stories. Jake didn't push her. He just sat beside her and waited until she smiled again. On one quiet afternoon, their class teacher announced a special project. A science fair was coming soon to the station. Students were invited to work in pairs and build something useful or creative. The winners would visit a major learning center on Earth. Excitement filled the room. Some students clapped. Others quickly chose their partners. Jake looked at Elia and smiled. "You want to team up?" Elia blinked. "Me, but I'm not good at building." "You showed me those old machines in the tunnel. You had ideas for my tools," he said. "You're smart, Elia. We'll build something great." Her face turned a gentle shade of purple, the Talliran sign of happiness. "Yes," she said. "I want to build with you." After class, they went to the old tech room. Jake carried parts from his family's storage box, metal bits, wires, and an old Earth robot core. Elia brought a small box wrapped in soft fabric. Inside were pieces of tech left by her parents before the war crystal nodes, thin energy lines, and a round power stone. "This is rare," Jake said, amazed. "You sure we can use it?" "Only one," Elia said. "Others say it helps make things alive." They decided to build a helper robots, small, round, and kind. It would scan broken tools and fix simple problems. They named it Buddy. They worked every afternoon. Jake handled the body and wires. Elia worked on the energy system. Their hands moved fast. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they argued over designs. But every night they left smiling. Soon, Buddy could float. It could blink its eye light and say simple phrases. Elia programmed it to say, "How can I help?" in 3 languages. Jake gave it a small arm that could twist screws and clean dust. As the contest neared, the bullies watched from a distance. They didn't speak much, but their eyes followed Jake and Elia closely. On the night before the contest, Elia and Jake walked to the tech room to check one last time. But when they arrived, the door was slightly open. Jake rushed inside. "No," he whispered. Buddy was gone. The wires were scattered. The table was empty. Leigh stared at the mess. She dropped her small toolkit. Her hands shook. "Why?" she whispered. "I take it." Jake clenched his fists. "It was them. I know it. They break Buddy," Elia said. "Our friend." Jake took a deep breath. "We'll fix this. We still have tonight." "But the power stone," Elia said, tears filling her eyes. "Gone." Jake looked at her. "Do you trust me?" She nodded slowly. "Then let's build again." We worked all night. They used spare parts from the station's recycle bin. Jake rebuilt the shell. Elia reprogrammed the voice chip from memory. They didn't sleep, they didn't eat. Only Once did Jake stop to put a blanket around Elia's shoulders when she shivered. At one point, Elia pulled something from her necklace. Another crystal. "I hide second one," she said. "Just in case." Jake smiled. "You're amazing." Morning. Buddy was back. Not as shiny, not as perfect. But it blinked, floated, and said, "How can I help?" They walked into the contest room, tired but proud. Their classmates turned to stare. Even the bullies looked shocked. The judges walked around watching each project. When they reached Buddy, Jake stepped back. She explained, he said, pointing to ELYA. ELYA took a deep breath. Her translator worked clearly now. Her voice was steady. "This is Buddy. It helped fix tools, scan damage, and clean. It learned from human and Tallyran ideas." One judge nodded. "And how did you two build it?" "Together," Elia said, looking at Jake. "He is my friend." The judges smiled. When the results were announced, the room waited. First place. Jake and Elia, the teacher said. Everyone clapped, even some students who never spoke to Elia before. The bullies stayed silent. After the contest, students came up to Elia and Jake. They asked about Buddy. They complimented Elia's voice and her crystal work. For the first time, Elia felt welcome as they walked out of the hall. Jake looked at her and asked, "How do you feel?" Elia smiled. "Right. Like I belong." Elia and Jake stood near the viewing window of the P station, looking at the stars. Their names had just been announced as winners of the science contest, and soon they would travel to Earth's famous learning center.
Oh!
Elia couldn't believe it. Just a few weeks ago, she was eating alone, trying to hide. Now, she had a friend, a project to be proud of, and a future that looked bright. "Do you think Earth will like me?" Elia asked quietly. Jake smiled. "Earth is big. Some people are nice, some not. But once they meet you, they'll like you." "I hope so," she said, her voice soft. The ship to Earth was scheduled to leave in 3 days. In the meantime, Jake and Elia were invited to give a small talk about their robot project in the station's assembly room. It was a big honor. Only a few students ever got to speak there. But trouble was not over. The group of bullies who had stolen their robot were still angry. They had expected to win the contest. They believed no one would suspect them. Now their plan had failed, and Elia and Jake were the center of attention. Jealousy grew in their hearts. One of them, a tall red-skinned alien named Varnick, whispered, "To the others, we need to teach them a lesson. We'll make sure they never reach Earth." That same night, while Jake and Elia worked in the tech room, someone crept into the storage bay. They placed a small tracking bug inside Elia's backpack. They also sent a fake message to the ship crew, warning that Elia's tech was dangerous. They wanted to stop her from leaving the station. The next morning, Elia was called in for questioning by the station's safety officers. She was scared and confused. "I don't understand," she said. "I do nothing wrong." The officer showed her the bug they found. "Do you recognize this?" Elia shook her head. "No, never see before." Jake arrived soon after. He had heard the news and ran as fast as he could. "She didn't do anything," Jake said. "Someone is trying to hurt her." The officers looked at each other. They knew Jake and Elia had been bullied before. They decided to check the station's security recordings again. An hour later, the truth was clear. They saw Varnick near Elia's locker the night before. The officers sent a report to the school council. Varnick and his group were banned from all future contests and were placed under supervision. When Jake told Elia the news, she looked down and whispered, "Why do they hate me?" "Because you're different," Jake said. "But being different is not a bad thing." Elia nodded slowly. She still felt hurt, but Jake's words gave her strength. On the day of their trip, the ship waited at Dock 3. It was a medium-sized transport vessel, with clean halls and soft seats. Jake and Elia sat next to each other by the window. "Have you ever been to Earth?" Elia asked. "Once, when I was younger," Jake said, "but this is the first time with a friend." The ship left the station and moved into open space. Watch the stars go by. They looked like tiny lights dancing on dark water. After a few hours, they arrived at the Earth Academy. It was bigger than anything Elia had ever seen. Tall glass towers, learning domes, and open gardens filled with plants from many worlds. Her eyes lit up. So much green, she said, smiling. A guide welcomed them and showed them around. They met teachers, scientists, and even students from other alien races. Most people were kind and curious. Some asked about Elia's home planet. She answered gently, but with a little sadness. One older teacher, Professor Hannah, listened carefully to Elia's words. She studied Elia's crystal tech and was amazed. "This energy form is unique," she said. "Your people knew things we never learned." Elia nodded. Mother said, "Knowledge must be shared, not kept alone." The professor placed a gentle hand on Elia's shoulder. "I think you will do great things." In the following days, Jake and Elia attended classes. They joined workshops, learned new tools, and showed Buddy to the other students. Buddy became popular, floated around the halls, helping students find their books, and even fixing a broken fan. Elya started to feel more confident. She answered questions in class. She made new friends. Jake was happy for her. One evening, they sat near a garden pool. Soft lights floated in the air, and Earth's moon glowed above. "You're doing amazing," Jake said. Yell looked at the water. "It's because of you. You helped me." "You did most of the hard work," Jake said. "I just stood by your side." Elia looked at him. Then, "Please stay by my side. Always." Jake nodded. "I will." In that quiet moment, they didn't need to speak more. Their bond was strong. It's not just from protecting each other, but from building something together, from pain, from trust, from hope. But they didn't know yet that something bigger was coming. In the shadows of the academy, someone had seen Elia's crystal tech. Someone powerful.
Oh.
And not everyone believed in peace. A few days after arriving at the academy, Elia and Jake received an invitation to visit the Advanced Energy Research Center. It was a part of the academy where only top-level scientists worked. The message was clear. Professor Hannah had recommended. Elia, after seeing her crystal tech, Jake looked at her with a grin. "This is huge, Elia." Elia looked nervous. "I'm not ready." "You are," he said gently. "You belong there." The research center was on the far side of the academy, surrounded by energy fields and silver gates. When they entered, scientists in clean white uniforms looked up from their work. Some smiled. Others just stared with curiosity. Professor Hannah greeted them warmly. "Welcome, we've been waiting." She introduced them to her team. They showed great interest in the small crystal Elia had used to power Buddy. One scientist asked, "Do you have more of these?" Elia shook her head. "Just 2. From my mother. Used for Buddy. 1 hidden." They didn't push. They only asked questions: how the crystal reacted, how it connected with machines, and how it held energy without breaking. After a long session, Professor Hannah took Elia and Jake aside. Her tone was quiet. "There are rumors," she said. "Some believe your tech is too powerful. They want to take it for research without permission." Elia's eyes widened. "They want to steal it?" "Some powerful groups think it's too valuable to be left with a child," Hannah said gently. "I told them no. I will protect you. But you must be careful." Jake placed a hand on Elia's shoulder. "We'll keep it safe." They returned to their dorm that evening. Jake helped Elia hide the second crystal in a secret pocket sewn inside Buddy's frame. "No one will think to look here," he said. Days passed. Elia continued to impress the teachers. She helped fix a broken energy panel using her tech knowledge. Students from other species started asking for her help. She was no longer just the alien girl. She was now Elia the Builder. But in the background, someone was watching. A man named Director Renner worked for the Galactic Research Council. He had heard of Elia's crystal and believed it was the key to unlocking ancient energy. Wanted it for his own lab. He didn't care how he got it. He sent a message to his agents on Earth. "Retrieve the alien girl's tech. Do not fail." One night, Jake woke up to a soft beeping sound. Buddy was glowing faintly red. Jake sat up and pressed its panel. A message played quietly. Movement detected. Unauthorized access attempt near locker. He rushed to Elia's room and knocked fast. She opened the door, still sleepy. "Someone's trying to take your things," Jake said. They ran to the storage room where Elia kept her old toolbox and drawings. Sure enough, the lock had been damaged. But nothing was taken because the crystal was hidden inside Buddy. Elia looked up at Jake. "We not safe here," Jake nodded. "We need help." They went to Professor Hannah and showed her the damage. She called the academy security and filed a report. But she also told them you should move to the protected wing. It's where visiting scholars stay. Fewer people can enter without permission. They agreed the new rooms were smaller but more secure. They had code-locked doors, private cameras, and emergency buttons. Jake and Elia felt safer, but only for a while. A week later, Director Renner himself visited the academy. He wore a long coat and spoke with smooth, calm words. He asked to meet Elia and Jake. Professor Hannah refused. They're children, not tools. But Renner had power. He went to the Academy Council and requested a formal review. He said Elia's crystal was too dangerous. He wanted to take it to a high-security lab for everyone's safety. Elia heard this. She felt her hands grow cold. "They want to take what little I have left of my family." Jake stood beside her. "We won't let them." The next day, the council held a meeting. Teachers, scientists, and leaders sat in a round room. Elia and Jake were asked to explain where the crystal came from. Elwa stood quietly at first. Then she held up Buddy and said, "This crystal is from my mother. She'll say it's for learning, not for power. She gave it to me before everything ended," Jake added. "She used it to build something helpful. Not a weapon, not a threat." Professor Hannah supported them. "They've used this tech. To help, taking it by force would be a shame." Director Renner stood up. "And what happens when others try to copy it? Sell it? Break it? We must act first." The room went silent. One elder council member finally said, "We will decide tomorrow. Until then, the crystal stays with Elia." After the meeting, Jake whispered to Elia, "We may have to leave if things go bad." Elia nodded. "I trust." That night, they packed a small bag. Buddy stayed close. Elia carefully touched the frame where the crystal was hidden. "My mother gave me this," she whispered. "I won't lose it." They sat by the window, watching the stars again. Jake looked at her. "No matter what happens," he said, "we'll face it together." The next morning came slowly. The sky above the academy was cloudy, and the air felt heavy. Inside the council hall, members gathered to decide Elia's future. Director Renner stood tall, holding a data pad filled with notes and warnings. Looked calm, but his eyes were sharp. Jake and Elia waited outside the hall, sitting quietly on a bench. Buddy floated between them, making soft humming sounds. Elia's hands were folded tightly on her lap. "Do you think they'll take it?" she asked. Jake shook his head. "I don't know. But if they try, we'll find a way." Inside the hall, voices rose. Some supported Renner's demand to take the crystal. Others defended Elia's right to keep what was hers. Professor Hannah argued strongly that the tech was not a weapon, but a gift of knowledge. "This child has done more good with it than most adults ever could," she said. The council debated for hours. Finally, the lead council member, an elder named Malin, called for silence. "We will not take the crystal," he said. "But Elia must be watched closely. She may use the tech only under the Academy's supervision." Renner was clearly angry, but he said nothing. He bowed politely and left the room. Outside, Professor Hannah found Elia and Jake. She smiled gently.
Ow.
"You won." For now, Elia felt a small wave of relief. "Thank you," she whispered. Jake looked serious. "Renner won't stop." "I saw it in his eyes." Professor Hannah nodded. "Be careful. Stay close. If anything happens, call me at once." For the next few days, everything seemed quiet. Elia returned to her studies. Students asked her about her crystal and Buddy. Many were curious but respectful. Now, Jake joined a tech class and started building a new scanner with Earth students. One night, as Elia worked alone in the lab, Buddy beeped softly. Warning. Motion detected. She turned quickly and saw a shadow near the door. Could call for help? The lights went out. The door slid open, and a group of masked figures rushed in. One of them grabbed Elia's wrist. Another reached for Buddy. Give us the crystal, one voice said. No. Elia shouted, pulling away. Suddenly, the lab lights flickered back on. Jake burst through the door with a shock tool in hand. Without thinking, he charged forward. Swinging it wide? One of the attackers stumbled back, dropping a metal case. Leave her alone, Jake yelled. Security alarms began to sound. The masked figures ran out, disappearing into the hallway. Jake rushed to Elia. Are you okay? She nodded quickly. Yes, Buddy's safe. Station guards arrived within minutes. They locked down the lab and searched the area, but the intruders had already vanished. Professor Hannah came to see them, her face pale with worry. This is no longer safe, she said. We need to move you. Jake and Elia were taken to a secret guest quarter beneath the academy. It was small but protected by thick doors and coated walls. Buddy floated near the bed, scanning every noise. There, after it again, Jake said quietly. They'll keep coming. Elia looked at him. Then we run. No, Jake said firmly. We stand. We show them that you're not just some girl with a crystal. You're smarter than them, stronger than them. Elia's eyes glowed slightly, a sign of deep emotion for her kind. You believe in me? Always, he replied. The next day, the academy held a public event in the main hall. Students, teachers, and visitors gathered to see a tech display. Jake had an idea. We'll show everyone what the crystal really is, he told Elia. We'll let the world see Buddy in action, not as a weapon, but as a friend. They worked all night preparing. Elia adjusted Buddy's voice to explain things in simple words. Jake connected his scanner to Buddy's system to project visuals. On a large screen, when the event started, people gathered around their booth. Buddy floated forward and said, Greetings. I am Helper Unit Buddy. I fix, I scan, I learn. Then, using a broken device from one of the tables, Buddy demonstrated how it detected the damage and repaired it within seconds. The crowd gasped. A young boy asked, How does it work? Ilya stepped forward. It learns by watching. It uses energy from my home. But it is not for fighting. It is for helping. Then another crowd clapped, then another. Soon the room was filled with applause. Watching from the edge of the room, Director Renner stood still. He didn't smile. He turned and walked away quietly. After the event, students and teachers congratulated Jake and Elia. One teacher said, You've reminded us why we learn. Thank you. As they walked back to their room, Jake looked at Elia. I think they see you now. Not just as different, but as someone special. Elia nodded. I'm not afraid anymore. Outside, the night sky was filled with stars. For the first time in her life, Elia felt like one of them, bright, strong, and impossible to ignore. But even in victory, she knew something else was coming. Because when you carry something powerful, someone always wants to take it. 3 weeks passed since Elia and Jake's public tech display. Buddy had become a small hero around the academy. Every student knew its name, and most now greeted Elia with respect. No one whispered behind her back anymore. No one tried to push. Her in the halls, Professor Hannah invited her to join a special program for gifted builders. Jake was asked to teach younger students how to repair small machines. Their lives had changed, and for once, it felt like peace had come. But peace doesn't last forever. Late one night, while the academy slept, a silent ship landed in a restricted zone far from the main buildings. No lights, no noise. It belonged to a secret group under Director Renner one that didn't follow academy rules. Inside the ship, 4 agents moved quickly. Their goal was simple: retrieve the Talian crystal, no matter what. At the same time, Elia woke from a strange dream. She had seen her mother's face smiling at her, then turning into stars. She sat up, her heart beating fast. Buddy beeped once. Motion alert. South corridor. Jake, sleeping nearby, opened his eyes. What's wrong? Elia whispered. Someone's here. Ah! They quickly dressed and grabbed their emergency bag. Elia opened Buddy's back panel and checked the crystal. Still there, glowing faintly. We need to warn Professor Hannah, Jake said. Just as they opened their room door, 2 masked agents appeared. Stop, one ordered. You must come with us. Jake stepped in front of Elia. She's not going anywhere with you? The agent raised a small stun tool. This is not a request. Before he could strike, Buddy floated forward at high speed and hit the tool with its arm. Sparks flew. The tool dropped. Jake grabbed a nearby chair and swung it at the second agent. Gave them just enough time to run. Alarms started ringing across the academy. They ran through empty halls, Buddy leading the way with its light. Behind them, more footsteps echoed. This way, Elia shouted, pulling Jake toward a small supply tunnel only she knew about. They squeezed through the narrow path, crawling under pipes and wires. It led them to the old machine Baja place no one used anymore. What now? Jake asked, breathing hard. We contact Professor Elia said, activating Buddy's long-range signal. After a few minutes, Professor Hannah's voice came through. I'm on my way. Hold your position. Security is moving in. But the agents were faster. 2 of them found the machine bay. One held a scanner. They're here. Jake and Elia stood back, holding Buddy between them. Give us the crystal, the lead agent said. Never, Elia replied. It's not yours to keep. It's all I have left of my family, she said, her voice trembling. It's not for power, it's for learning. The agent stepped closer. Then learn this, but before he could move, Buddy's light turned bright blue. Changed. Danger detected. Defense mode activated. A loud pulse of energy pushed both agents back. They hit the wall and fell. Buddy hovered in front of Elia like a shield. Jake's mouth opened. I didn't know it could do that. Neither did I, Elia whispered. More footsteps approached. But this time, it was Professor Hannah and station guards. They quickly took the agents into custody. You're safe now, Hannah said, hugging both of them. The next day, the Academy Council held an emergency meeting. It declared that Elia had full ownership of the Talion crystal and all tech she built with. Anyone who tried to take it again would face serious punishment. Director Renner didn't return. He was removed from his post, and his secret group was disbanded. YA and Jake stood in front of the Academy students as heroes. We built something small, Jake said during his short speech. But what it taught us was big, Elia added. Helping others is stronger than hurting. That's what my mother believed, and I believe it now too. After the ceremony, Elia sat with Jake under the same tree where they first talked about Earth and Talira. Buddy floated nearby, humming. Softly, do you still want a dog? Jake asked with a smile. Elia laughed. Yes, a small one. Maybe with long ears. One day, he said. When we have a house, maybe near a garden. She looked up at the stars, I think. We will build more than robots. We will build a new home. Together, Jake asked. LYA turned to him and nodded. Together. In the days that followed, the Academy gave them a lab of their own. They worked on new projects, teaching others, creating tools, and sharing knowledge. Students from different species came to learn from them. No one bullied Elia again. Because now, everyone knew the little alien girl who was once alone, once silent, now had a voice, a friend, a future. And the human boy who stood up for her didn't just protect her, he changed everything.